Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. We're talking East Carolina Pirate Baseball on This Week in East Carolina, or excuse me, This Week in Pirate Baseball. I'll get it right. But, welcome into the show. John White and I are taking a look back at the Pirates' 2-3 week. East Carolina got off a solid start with midweek victories over UNCW and Elon. But unfortunately, were swept over the weekend by FAU. The Owls win those games 6-5, 4-1, 7 innings, and 8-6. We'll take a look back at all five lies ahead. John, this rainy Monday evening.
Hey, Bubba. Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Started off good with a extra inning win with Wilmington at Brooks Field, and then coming back home to play Elon and get the Wednesday win. Pitching was a little bit probably had some arm issues, and when I say that, I mean it was a little bit tired from the weekend down at Rice and a lot of pitching going on there, but. Coming home and having to play it against Florida Atlantic, they did get the sweep, and they did have a couple chances there in the first and third game. The second game was a little bit got punched in the nose a little bit, and things happen, and they'll build upon that, and we'll see what goes next week. So yeah, I'm glad to be on the show, Bubba. Thank you.
Yeah, starting off with that game at UNCW, that was one, obviously the second of three matchups between the programs this season. The Seahawks won that initial meeting at Segra Stadium in Fayetteville a couple weeks prior, 9-4, a game in which ECU just could simply not throw strikes. And coming off that long road trip to Houston, a very successful one, but I was interested to see how the Pirates would respond. And, Cliff Godwin said post-game that, getting on the bus to head to Wilmington, that he challenged the guys because of how we had played a couple weeks prior in the first matchup. And the guys responded well. We put up 4 runs in the first inning. It was kind of a 180 that the UNC Wilmington pitchers were unable to throw strikes. Walking the first 2 hitters, and then Colby had a single. Riley Johnson and Walker Barron had sac flies, and then Irby and Bowman followed with run scoring hits. So it was just the start you needed.
Yeah, and like you said, Wilmington had 12 walks in that game total. We started off a little bit on our side of the inning with some walks as well, but the normal table setters got up and got on and scored in the first inning and put us up pretty quickly. Then we had to kind of hold on there towards the end, but the normal game plan has, for the last few weeks has been those top 2 hitters getting on base, and they do it a lot, and scoring. They had 6 walks between them. So that makes it hard on the opposing pitchers, and both of them are in the top 5 in the league in stolen bases. So, yeah, those 2 guys getting on are always going to be trouble for the other team. And Wilmington really didn't pitch well. And Jaden came out and started the game. He did walk 3, gave up a couple runs, and then we moved into Ian and Lance Williams before we kind of got settled down towards the middle of the bullpen. And then Ethan finally coming in and closing the door with 4 Ks and 2 earned runs given up.
Yeah, Jaden Winter, like you said, got the ball 5 up, 5 down, and then proceeded to walk the bases loaded. Unfortunate there, but that has unfortunately been the story when it comes to Jaden Winter. Excellent stuff at times, but just not the consistency in command, and that has caused him to play the role that he's played rather than a larger role on this team because of his command issues.
Yeah, and these midweek games are when coaches are trying to figure out who's going to step up and figure out to get. And right now, the team's struggling a little bit to find their identity when it comes to the pitching staff. We do know Friday is pretty set, and we have some good bullpen arms, and then the young guy Sean, he obviously is showing better stuff right now, but the team is searching for someone to step up in those middle week games and prove their worth. And he's moving around the pitching depth and trying to figure that out. And does have good stuff, but the walks have been a problem in midweek games. We did have 8 walks, so it was a little bit still there in a sense, but a little bit better. Unfortunately for Wilmington, their pitching staff did not come to play, and we were able to hold on to the game. We actually had to win in extra innings, so that was another concerning part. But we had Boucher have the home run to put us up, the grand slam that kind of sealed the deal there in the 10th inning. So that was good stuff out of Boucher.
Yeah. Keenan Bowman had a 4-for-4 night at the plate. Alex Boucher had a pair of extra base hits. John mentioned the grand slam that was the deciding factor there in the top of the 10th. Also had a double that plated a run in the top of the 4th, right after UNCW had sliced the lead to 4-2. ECU made it 5-2 there. Then Um, you had the 2-run shot by Gillespie that made it a 5-4, and then third out, the Seahawks made it a 1-run game. Tanner Thatch, and I think I think Thatch was 0-for-4 on the night.
Yeah, and Thatch is one of the best players in their conference. Great player, and we were able to keep him from creating more damage than he typically can. So that was good to hold him down.
And but as you mentioned, I talked about the 4th spot in the first, and the game was kind of bookend there by those 4 spots in the first inning and the 10th inning. Eight of ECU's 10 runs. Didn't do a whole lot in between enough, and, and in that 10th inning, we talked about UNCW having a walk game. I think at least 6 of those came in the 10th inning because they walked the bases loaded. You had the Boucher grand slam. They walked bases loaded again. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. The 2 innings really were the story of the game, but ECU was able to hold them off. But like I said, I know Coach is probably not excited that he had to go into extra innings to win this game, but it is what it is, and that's how baseball is. Sometimes you have to win in different sort of fashions, and that was just another way. So
John,
game 2 on at home against Elon.
yep. A couple other notes right quick before we shift to that Elon game. I apologize for the technical difficulties tonight. Have some storms here in the China Grove area, and it's been a downpour for much of the day. But
Yeah, I think that's the case for much of the state, and especially down in the southeast part of the state. I heard there was some pretty bad storms, a lot of wind, etc.
yeah, a couple final notes on the 10-6 10-inning win over UNCW. Like for the Seahawks, you had a Riker Galaska, who's a Greenville native, that hit the pinch hit home run in the bottom of the 8th that made it 6-6. And then John already referenced many of these arms, but ECU did use 6 pitchers in the game, which was not surprising. Ethan Young picked up the victory to improve to 3-0. Diesel went 4 innings, allowed 2 runs on 3 hits, and had 4 Ks. Nick Moran also pitched well, 2 1/3 of shutout and hitless baseball, and had 4 strikeouts. And so transitioning into Wednesday, you had the Elon Phoenix coming to town, and the Pirates got off to a solid start, jumping on the Phoenix early, um, throwing up 4 runs there early in the game. Sean Jenkins, that you just referenced just a few minutes ago, Sean 9 up, 9 down to start, and just the start you would draw up.
Yeah, Sean's looking better. Coach has been talking about that recently, and he started to struggle there when he lost his other pitches, not getting over the plate, and this fastball was not as effective. So he's starting to get that back, and you're seeing that, and that's a good thing. You want to get him back in the rotation and feeling good. So this is a good start to get him in there, get his confidence going. And I think he did end up going, 4 innings, 4 1/3 innings, 5 strikeouts. He did give up a run, 2 walks, but it was a good outing to get his confidence going back up and start building him back up to become a weekend starter again.
Um, and Bowman had another big night at the plate. Had a couple of hits after going 4 for 4 on Tuesday, 2 for 5 in the 7-5 win over Elon. The game did get a little interesting in the late innings. I mean, after the Pirates had that 6-1 lead through 6, um, you saw I think the tying run get to the plate in the top of the 8th when it was a 6-4 game, and the Sprock kid, who's a very solid bat for the Phoenix, hit a home run, but following a leadoff, or excuse me, an error against the leadoff man, for Elon. But fortunately, we answered the call. Seawall with a solo shot to give us a little breathing room in the bottom of the inning, and then and we're able to hold on despite a Elon solo shot in the top of the ninth.
Yeah, Bowman with his double in the 6th got us up to 6-1. Felt like we were going to kind of cruise the victory, but Elon had other ideas and a couple home runs there in the 7th and 8th to make it a close ball game. But Colby Wallace comes in and gives us, like you said, a little breathing room. But Elon came back in the 9th and hit another one. But we were able to finish the game out and get the victory.
And kind of shift into the weekend. You and I had spoken just about how Florida Atlantic is clearly not only the best team we had played in conference to date, by a fairly wide margin, but also one of the better teams we'd played in general. Probably right up there. Not much behind North Carolina, and then right there with Coastal Carolina, in my opinion. So I think 20-9, something like that, coming into the weekend. A very similar record to the Pirates, and I think they had a 308 team batting average, an ERA of just over 4, a fielding percentage. Although their coach was very displeased, with their performance over the last couple of weeks after a very hot start. That included the last couple of weeks, that is, included a sweep at UTSA, who's very good. But yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna.
they righted the ship in Greenville.
Yeah, they came out in the first, and Lipsy, great player, great hitter. He's got a lot of power from the number 1 spot. Comes out and hits a bomb in the first inning. So yeah, and then we come back. We come right back and score pretty quickly ourselves. So you think we have this pitching battle going on between Trey Beard and Ethan Norby, and it didn't quite start that way. Although Trey did end up pitching 121 pitches in the game in 7 innings, and this is the third pitcher in 2 weekends has now went over 120 pitches against East Carolina. So that's another surprising thing in today's game. You don't typically see that anymore. People kind of frown on that, but Ethan didn't have his great stuff. Gave up 5 earned runs in 4 1/3. So a little bit disconcerting there, but really a good hitting team out of Florida Atlantic, and not surprising, but they did come out and kind of get on the board early and then come right back. Every time we scored, they came back and got back in the game, and we tried to nibble back there towards the end and almost did, but ended up falling short 6-5.
Like Cliff said multiple times throughout the weekend, we knew how good they were offensively. A very proven lineup, and they certainly showed that. 28 runs, 40 hits, 9 home runs. They took advantage of that jet stream to right field
Yeah,
in a big way, to say the least.
yeah,
And
yeah. They started launching balls up in there, and they realized pretty quickly. But they did. They had doubles. They had home runs. They really, outslugged us this weekend. Is the only way to say it.
they really did. And that's something. Looking back at the numbers for the series, it really surprised me, just because the way he began the series, with those 2 home runs and Marshall Lipsy. I couldn't believe it when I saw that he was 3 for 13 in the series. It seemed like he was about 6 for 13.
Yeah, after the first game, I was thinking, wow, we need to be very careful with him. But really, that was his game of the weekend, and he's always a threat at the plate. He came from another college where he hit a lot of home runs. He's that kind of guy. But like you said, that was it for him on the weekend. A lot of other players stepped up in his stead, particularly Jake Dewar on Saturday and Sunday.
Yep, and just the production. If it wasn't one guy, it was another, and it was most everybody. yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, Saturday definitely was. Yeah.
yeah. Yes, Saturday, and that is with 18 hits for the Owls. But a little more about Game One. The Pirates really got off to a pretty solid start. After the Lipsy home run on the first pitch of the game, ECU scored a run in each of the first 3 innings, led 3-1 after three, and you felt pretty good. Then in the fourth, Lipsy had his second home run. This one a 3-run shot, taking a 4-3 lead, and like you had already said, the Owls did not look back and built that lead to 6-3. We had chances to win it late. Braxton Trammell had a big RBI double. Colby Wallace had a RBI single, and then I think there was, I'm trying to remember, was it second and third or bases loaded, and Walker Barron, I think it was, just absolutely smoked one. And
Yeah. It was
you
Walker.
couldn't hit it, and couldn't hit a baseball harder probably to the
Yeah.
to the FAU third baseman. And I think Cliff Godwin said post game, he said I thought it was going to go through his glove.
Yeah. And those type of things do happen, but it stinks when you can't get those runs across. You're itching to take the win in the first game, and it didn't happen. But once again, the top of the lineup, the top three guys are on base a lot. They're scoring a lot. Colby Wallace, RBIs, hits. Braden seems to be on base all the time. Dixon, you know what he's going to bring to the table. So that same 1-2-3 recipe for the other team seems to be working. It's just now down in the middle of the order, got to figure that out. And coaches kind of messed around in that 4 hole, trying to figure out who to get up in there. But Bowman was in there that game. He did have that double, so maybe we'll see some more of him in the 4 hole. We don't know, but that's coach's decision.
And that L5 that that line out to third that I referenced for Walker Barron, that was one of probably 3 or 4 plays like that in the game where the Pirates, barrel balls up, hit them on the screws, and just right at guys, which that's part of the game. And
And if you think about it, if something goes through right there at the end, we're talking about winning game one and possibly winning game three. Obviously, the game two, we're not going to win with 3 hits and they have 18 hits, but it might have changed the face of the series by winning that first game. You never know.
right, and that's something that people don't want to hear. Some people don't understand, and certainly doesn't change anything. But that expression that I've used a few times in recent weeks, never as good as it seems, and never as bad as it seems. This time, never as bad as it seems.
Yeah.
As much as the weekend sucked, you
Yeah.
you really could have won the series.
Yeah.
But,
It
but, but
very easily could have been the other way. And that's how baseball is there. And I've always been told, as a pitcher, you're not going to have your best stuff and you're going to win with your worst stuff and you're going to lose with your best stuff. But you have to battle in the middle of those two aspects of your pitching. And as far as a team goes, you're going to play great and lose, and you're going to play bad and win. But the season is dictated on how you play in between those things. And doing small things and winning games like this are a big deal. And it definitely would have changed the face of the series if one hit or that hit that he had that he barreled up had gotten through. I mean, this would have taken on a whole different view on the weekend.
but something else the place I was going with that is that those things are also magnified because those things are going to happen in baseball games where you obviously have excellent at bats with nothing to show for it, and when you don't do anything like we didn't in the middle innings, it's magnified all the more because of just our
The
lack of
outcome.
lack of focus and whatnot that Cliff referenced post game.
Yeah, and you got to think about it. The team came off of a 3-game series down in Houston. So they traveled for the first time for distance, came back home, and then they had to end up back in Wilmington on Tuesday. And when they come back, they're just not sitting there having to just come back. They have to come back and take care of their studies, etc. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not like this is just baseball. They have other aspects to their life they have to take care of. So they come back, have to turn around real quick, get their education in order, and then end up having to travel down to Wilmington on Tuesday and then come directly back and play on Wednesday against Elon. And the pitching staff, they had to figure that out. Who's going to pitch? Who's ready? Who's pitched this many innings? So there's a lot of aspects that go on there. A lot of the typical fans may not understand, but maybe they do. But the issue here is you have to figure those things out and get ready for the ball game, and that's part of what coach has to go through every week. And he's got him and his pitching coach Austin Knight. They have to figure out who's ready to go. Who do we have? Whose arm is ready? And that's a lot tougher than people think.
Final couple thoughts about that initial game against FAU. And Colby Wallace. Mentioned his name a couple times already. With regards to that game, Colby had 3 hits, 3 for 4, 3 runs batted in. Also had a walk, and then you also had Braden Burris 2 for 3 with a run scored and reached base via a walk. So as you already mentioned, the top 3 guys in this order, are doing a heck of a job. And Dixon and Braden, they have on base percentages as well as slugging percentages, and right there, just shy of or in excess of 500.
Yeah, You cannot heap higher praises on what's happening with 1, 2, and 3 in this lineup. Those guys are really excelling at their jobs, and it's good to see those first three come up. And as I mentioned earlier, they're going to have to figure out some things in the middle of the lineup to try and get a little bit more production out of that area. We obviously know those first three guys, one of them or two of them are going to be on base a lot. So we got to get some production out of that middle.
Moving into Saturday's game, right off the bat, FAU puts up a 4 spot. And we do get one back in the second inning, and then that was on a Braxton Trammell solo shot, but then FAU also responds pretty quickly. They're in the top of the third with a 3 spot to make it 7-1 after 2.5 innings, and the majority of these hits were extra base hits. For instance, in the first inning, their 4 runs included a triple double and a home run.
Yeah, and you get that one run back, and you're trying to nibble back, and then all of a sudden you come back in the third, and guy hits a bomb to make it 7-1, and then now you're down a little bit more, and you're next in or the fifth inning come back and they score 3 more. Next thing you know, you're kind of out of the game, and their pitcher. He wasn't really a dominating pitcher, but he was throwing strikes. And after he got the lead, that's all he had to do. And there's not many games that you're going to only get 3 hits and win. But even if they had probably got 10 hits in this game, they might not have won because Florida Atlantic was obviously swinging the bat very well this game.
Yeah, definitely was batting practice.
Yeah,
And
I think I mentioned that to you. It seemed like batting practice out there that day. And the wind was a big factor this weekend. If anybody didn't see the game or was out there, the wind out to right was a big deal. And yeah, they definitely took advantage at times. And they doubles and home runs. It seemed like that was every other inning thing for them.
yeah, like Cliff said post game, the Pirates, definitely have not lost, that lopsided fashion, or in that lopsided fashion, I should say, very frequently at all, especially at home.
Yeah,
And
I
and
remember. I remember asking you when was the last time we got 7 or the 10 run rule against us, and also a sweep at home. So I know those things don't happen very often at this program.
yeah, the last time we were swept in the conference at home was way back in 2018,
Yeah,
and you know, obviously we were swept last year at Tulane, and I guess a couple years ago at Wichita State. But yeah, it had been a while since it had happened at
that
Clark-LeClair.
Wichita State was the one where the equipment didn't make it with the.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yep. And it seemed like, then we end up having to play. We played a double header on Saturday as a result of that.
Yeah, so those type of things happen. I can see being thrown off your game a little bit with that. Um, Getting swept at home is a little bit different, and I know that it was a tough week for the guys, but they'll bounce back. Like we mentioned earlier, one hit away, 2 hits away from this whole series having a different feel to it.
And once that game, obviously there in the third inning, it was already 7-1, but there in the fifth, it became 12-1. At that point, we certainly didn't quit. I don't. I mean, from a coach's standpoint, but you just have to cut your losses, so to speak, and we had to use some arms that we haven't relied on as much here of late, to save our better arms for Sunday to try to stave off the sweep. So you saw some guys, such as Brad Zayak and Ian White Jr. and also Gabe Eschloss, Taylor Grubbs, and they logged some innings there in the last 3 or 4 frames.
Yeah, after Ethan came in and EY came in, after the first or second inning there, he struck out four, but the bomb, the big hits got to us, and there was no need to really try to overextend him trying to win the game. I know he was trying to settle the game, but at that point, it was he maybe needed the next game. So yeah, we got some arms in there like Taylor Grubbs, Beschloss, even White Jr., who I'd like to see more. I know he's struggled a bit there, a couple games, but it looks like he tries to get him more involved. And then at the end, Bradley Zayak actually pitched 2 innings and threw 30 pitches for us. So seeing some arms we don't typically see, and that's the case in a game like this when the other team has kind of put it out of reach by the mid-game fifth inning or so.
And that's one of the things in the past. You've at times, we haven't had very many right-handed bats in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and this year on the pitching side, you really need some other left-handed arms to emerge and to provide you consistent performances.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Boston Red Sox, right? You want to have some good left arms up there with that short porch and right, and with days like we had this weekend where the wind's blowing out to right, you're going to get really good flight on balls if you get it up in the air uh, at Clark-LeClair Stadium, and that's just the way it is when the wind's blowing that well. And having good lefties and a good lefty bullpen is a key part of winning at that ballpark. So that we see a lot of lefties in the offense, and we need a lot of good lefties on the bullpen as well. And there's a reason for that.
So moving into the series finale on Sunday, not surprised at all. The Brad Pruitt got the ball his first start as a Pirate. He had started in the New England Collegiate Baseball League for the Newport Gulls and pitched very well in that role. But Prue 5 innings threw a ECU career high 89 pitches, and then also collegiate high because he didn't log more than about 10 or 12 innings total last year at Oklahoma. But in those 5 innings, 3 runs, all earned on 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, and 2 walks. And Coach Godwin was very, very pleased with the first start that he got out of Brad Pruitt.
Yeah, and he got extended out to 89 pitches. I know he's thrown 55 maybe before, but yeah, so it's a good sign that he can do that, and it's a possibility. It looks like that he may end up in the weekend rotation, and seeing him come out there and be able to do that and help solidify a rotation that's really not been solidified is a good sign at this point because they're going to need some stability going into the rest of the season, and these guys have to figure out during the week what their plan is for the weekend and how they're going to approach their workouts during the week. So it's good to kind of get something in progress there. I know that it's been up in the air on who's going to pitch the weekends. That's not fun to do as a coach, and you want to have a 1, 2, 3 starter, and hopefully that starts to solidify itself with the way Brad pitched in the starting role, and then what we saw from Sean looking like he may have his stuff back and getting the ball over the plate. So those are good signs. That's what I took out of this weekend.
And Brad Pruitt's performance, all the more impressive. No, it wasn't just a lights out performance by any means, but at the same time, when FAU had scored 20 runs in 16 innings, and had a huge power display for him to allow just 3 hits in 5 innings. What was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so he had to come in and kind of right the ship and get us back in order. And yes, Florida Atlantic came out and scored again early, but he went out and stabilized things. He's got great stuff, so he's going to get the strikeouts. So he made it a lot tougher on the other team, and that's what Coach Godwin needed, and we needed to try to score some runs here. And we kept it close. And you thought towards the middle of the game that we're going to win this thing, but it's also a little too close against a good hitting ball club like FAU. And I know we didn't have the best defense going on during the game, but those things happen. So we ended up losing, and it was a tough thing to see after going up and thinking you may have this game in control, but that's baseball, and Florida Atlantic's too good of a hitting team to think that we're going to be able to hold on to a smallish lead like that.
Right, and because of Brad Pruitt's solid start and giving ECU a chance, he is our PGXGloves.com pitcher of the week. Also considered Sean Jenkins with his solid start against Elon, and Ethan Young um, with him having a solid performance or two. But congratulations to Brad Pruitt. 5 innings, 3 runs, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts, and 2 walks. He is our PGXGloves.com pitcher of the week. And, we talked about how Keenan Bowman had a 4-for-4 game against the Seahawks, had 2 hits against Elon. Also, those 6 hits during the midweek earned him a cleanup spot in Friday's lineup. And in that game, he had a hit as well, going 1-for-4. And of those 8 hits, 4 were for extra bases, with all of those being doubles. Scored 3 runs, drove in a couple, and also drew a walk. So congratulations to redshirt freshman Keenan Bowman, the corner outfielder, on being named our PGXGloves.com Player of the Week.
Yeah, Keenan had a great week at the plate, and pitching wise, obviously we didn't have anyone that stood out, but the best part about it was Pruitt did come in and kind of stabilize things, and we did see some good things out of Jenkins as well. So those are the positives to take away from the weekend. So we may have a little bit more of a stable look coming in the next weekend with our number 1, 2, and 3 a little bit more solidified. I know Coach has not said one way or the other yet, but it looks to be a little bit more appealing to know that you have Jenkins looking like his old self, and then you have somebody like Pruitt that can come in and do what he did.
Right, and we'll certainly elaborate on that a little bit more here in a moment. Kind of another point that I wanted to make about games 1 and 3. It's unfortunately been a common theme for ECU against the better opponents on its schedule, be it game 3 against Coastal Carolina, the North Carolina series, as well as some other games. You definitely had a solid win, against Virginia Tech in the Keith LeClair Classic on Sunday. But point being that, by and large, we've taken care of business against the inferior opponents on the schedule, but have just not done enough and have not been sharp enough in all facets to find a way to win those games against better competition.
Yeah, and the wins against Coastal and Virginia Tech look really good on the resume, but a win or two against UNC, there was a hit or two in those games as well that could have changed the aspect of those games. But yeah, those type of games in the midweek, the Duke game was a big one. But you want to win those games. I know a lot of people say, well, they're midweek games, this, that, and the other. But and when it comes to regional hosting and super regional possibilities, I know that's probably not going to happen this year, but when those aspects are talked about, those middle of the week games are really important, especially against the tougher competition. So it's tough to do because you're not going to have your number one, two, and three starters available to pitch, but that's what defines what a team is and what makes them a regional host type team is being able to win those middle of the week games pretty easily and taking care of business.
And something else I do want to highlight, because it has been something we've discussed, fairly frequently, and that is the issue with free passes. It's been more prevalent in the midweek than on the weekend. And once again, here on the weekend, in the three games, there were just a combined 9 free passes. So not bad at all. And it's a good thing that was the case because there was definitely enough traffic on the bases with the way FAU hit the ball.
Yeah, the pitching staff had their work cut out for them. If they had had more base runners on the base path with the way they were hitting doubles and home runs, it might have been worst case scenario. But yeah, you have to cut down the walks. That's just plain and simple. And during the week, we have not been able to do that very well. We still had 8 or 9 walks against Wilmington, but we are able to capitalize on a few things on problems with their pitching staff. But those type of things need to be eliminated. Obviously, there's going to be base on balls in the game, but Jake is a good guy to have in the bullpen, kind of for guys to look up to and see, how to work the plate, how to use your fastball. You might not have 95, 96 like Lance or Pruitt or EY, but and also watch Ethan Norby. These guys pitch and they stay around the zone and they know how to pitch with their fastballs and then keep people off, off with the off speed stuff. But that needs to be eliminated, and I know that they're working on it, and I know that they're young and they just need to kind of tap into some of these elder statesmen on the pitching staff and say, hey, these guys work the ball close to the plate. How do they do it? Don't be scared to do it and get to doing it. I mean, it's just plain and simple.
And yeah, well said. And on that note, we'll shift into taking a look at what's ahead. Definitely, no time to feel sorry for yourself. I know Cliff, made it public today. Through Stephen Igo, Hoist the Colors, and also on 94.3 The Game in his weekly chat with Igo and Patrick Johnson, that there would be a team meeting today concerning leadership. He said we do have some leaders, but definitely need more. And that's pretty much where he left it, saying that the rest was just amongst the team and confidential. But what were your thoughts on some of those comments and what he was saying concerning fatigue? And it's definitely more so of the mental variety. And he didn't elaborate, but he said yesterday's game alone, there were what he would classify, quote, 15 mental errors, whether it was something perhaps like getting picked off a base, or not knowing the situation defensively and not reacting accordingly, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. There was typical ECU baseball was not going on this weekend. There was the errors on the weekend were a little bit extreme compared to what we're used to. Uh, there were game situations that happened that we're not used to. So I know Coach is frustrated, and he did say he was going to have a big team meeting and they're going to figure some things out. But yeah, when for example, when you're in a keep a double away mode on defense, the infield needs to be a little bit more aware of what's going on. Support your outfield in those situations. That kind of didn't happen, and then middle of the infield, your middle of the infield is obviously, or the middle of the field is obviously your vulnerable spot, and that's where you really need to have your best defense. And that really didn't come to fruition this weekend, and that's going to get shored up, I'm sure. How it happens, we don't know yet, but I'm sure they're talking about that, and they're going to have some discussions. But overall, you gotta like you mentioned, your game situation was is a big part of how you win games, and that really was not happening this weekend. We kind of missed out on a few things that could have changed the outcome of the game on Sunday, especially. So that is definitely something that Cliff made clear he was going to talk to the team about during the team meeting, and we'll see how that comes about because we got a tough week coming up. NC State on Tuesday, and then a big weekend series at Charlotte. And Charlotte's number one obviously is a very tough guy to get through. So we got to start thinking about the upcoming week.
We've talked about the consistency of those first, three spots in the lineup, and they have remained where they are in the lineup for a reason because they have produced so consistently. That being Dixon Williams, Braden Burris, and Colby Wallace. Uh, However, at the cleanup spot, we have seen a revolving door. Last week alone, John, in 5 games, you had 5 different cleanup hitters.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
you
So
had you had Johnson, Kalinich, Trammell, um, Vergara, and then also one other one who's escaping me at the moment. But yeah, but nonetheless, you had 5 different cleanup hitters in 5 games.
yeah, I think
Keenan
obviously,
Bowman, Keenan Bowman.
yeah, Bowman. Obviously, you can put in pen that the first three hitters are going to be those guys, and they've done a wonderful job. But going back to what I said earlier, that middle of the lineup still needs some work, and Cliff's trying to find the perfect ingredients here to figure out what works best. But you have to know that when you have the first three hitters like we have, they're going to be on base, and you're going to need guys to produce behind them. And he's trying to find those guys. And once he gets settled on that, I don't know when it'll be, but yeah, it was a revolving door at the 4 hole, and that 4, 5, and 6 kind of has been that way for most of the year. I don't think we've settled in that area of the batting lineup yet.
Definitely have not, and like you're saying, intrigued to see how things progress there. And as well as in the middle infield,
Yeah,
specifically, yeah,
that
specifically shortstop. And go ahead.
no, I was going to say the 4, 5, 6 hole, 7 hole. When you know you have guys that are going to be on base, those guys are going to be the ones that have to produce, and doubles and the home runs here and there. But you got to get a little bit more a solid feel of what you're going to do there. Kind of understand what's happening. You got three guys that are not penciled in. They're put in the top three spots in pen, and then you have 4, 5, and 6 in pencil, and then you're erasing that like every ball game, trying to figure out who the best group to go with. So I know he's trying hard to figure out who fits that role the best. I'm not sure I do, to be honest, at this point. I know I like Big John swing, and he's been in and out of the lineup, but who knows? It's a tough. This is why he gets paid the big bucks at this point to figure that out.
And I referenced a moment ago on the situation, the 2 outs, a runner on first, and then outfields in no doubles alignment. Basically, 2 steps from the warning track. Where they're doing everything they can to prevent that runner from first base from scoring. And there was also a similar situation when we were hitting, and coach made that comparison, just saying that FAU made that play, because they were engaged, and they knew that they had to cover more ground as a result of the no doubles alignment, whereas we relied on Braden Burris to run from one step in front of the warning track or whatnot, um, all the way to shallow left center field.
Yeah, and you saw the play the guy made on there, and I think on their team, and I think Coach said it best. He looked like he was
Shot out
shot
of a
out of.
cannon.
Yeah, yeah. So he knew the situation himself, and he was ready for it. And we kind of slipped up there on ours, and it dropped, and that's it. I mean, that was the play of the game, and it's unfortunate because that play would be made in a normal lineup setting, but when you have to play the no doubles thing, as you mentioned, the infield has to be a lot more aware of what's going on and get their butts covering the outfield better.
So taking a look at what lies ahead, NC State and the Wolfpack coming off a series win over the Virginia Cavaliers. They dropped the series opener, then bounced back with a 9-2 win in game two, and then rallied from a late inning 8-2 deficit, scoring, I think it was 4 in the seventh and 3 in the ninth, to walk off UVA and pick up a huge series win at Doak Field. And after a slow start to the season, NC State appears to be playing pretty well, and it'll certainly take an inspired effort, as you would expect, at Clark-LeClair on Tuesday night to pick up a big midweek win.
Yeah, so this is the type of win we need to have. At this point in the season, we're looking at having to win the tournament if we don't pick things up right to get into the NCAA tournament. So these are the type of wins they need. And then after they win at NC State, they have a tough row to hoe with the number one pitcher Gillespie at UNC Charlotte. And I'm not sure where we're playing in Charlotte. Do you know at this point? I'm not.
Yes, obviously, and that's right here, 20 minutes down the road, half an hour for in the case of Friday's game for me. So I do, Lord
You're
willing, we're planning to be at all three games,
Yeah.
barring some emergency. I already have tickets for all three, and Friday night will be downtown, 6 o'clock at Truist Park, or I think I have that correct. Or is it Truist Field? Whatever. I always confuse that with the Braves Stadium.
Beautiful,
One's
beautiful park.
yep.
Highly suggest anybody who's never been there to go see it. But yeah, so the Friday game is going to be two good number ones going at each other again, just like this FAU number one game. You have the two of the top pitchers in the league going at it to start, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, Blake Gillespie in conference play. To John's point, I'm not sure his exact numbers, but I know the team in Friday games in and he's obviously been the starter in all three of those. Have allowed a grand total of 4 runs um, in league play. That was against Memphis, Wichita State, and UTSA. So very impressive stuff. However, I found this pretty interesting, and this was just in one, explosive inning because you had UNC Wilmington and Charlotte squaring off in a non-conference series on the weekend, and Gillespie, he had thrown up 4 zeros, and then UNCW threw a 6 spot on him in the fifth in that series down in Wilmington, which surprised me.
Yeah, he has 67 Ks and 49 innings, and he did have that one inning, but teams are hitting 204 against him. So and he has pitched a no hitter this year. So he's a high strikeout pitcher. He's low hits, but it'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
And then let's take a look at the league standings. The Pirates, are now 6-3 in the league, 20-13 overall, but around ECU, ahead of the Pirates now. They are chasing UTSA and South Florida. UTSA went to Birmingham, took 2 out of 3, from the Blazers, losing the series finale. And South Florida, on the other hand, they took 2 out of 3 at Memphis. The Tigers getting their first win in the league. Charlotte, they took 2 out of 3, at home against the Wichita State Shockers. And then, of course, you have FAU now at 5-4, is a sweep of the Pirates, got themselves right back in to the league hunt, just 2 games back of UTSA and South Florida. What are some of the things that have stood out to you, John, and your take on things through the first 3 weekends of league play?
Well, UTSA looks like they're for real. That's for one. Also, Florida Atlantic doesn't look like a team that should have been swept, but they've been swept, and then they also came back and got back into the rankings with a sweep of East Carolina. But the middle of the conference looks about what I expected, but UTSA has stepped up and showed that they might be the cream of the crop, and South Florida is looking good too. So right now, those are the 2 teams that everyone says will be in the tournament, the NCAA tournament, that is. And East Carolina obviously knows what they have to do to get back into that spot too. And it's getting to the point of the season where the RPIs are starting to formulate and get a little bit more solid. And right now, East Carolina would be on the outside looking in, and they know that. And so we need to win as many games as we can. And this is going to be a tester week. This is not going to be any kind of easy showdown in Charlotte. And then with the state game starting off. So 4 games this week, and they're all going to be tough. And this is the time of the year where coach says that he's at his best, and I hope that we are, and the team comes out with 4 victories this week. That would be excellent and put us back up there where we think we should be.
Yep, 33 games in the books, 23 remaining, and following the Tuesday night matchup with the Wolfpack at Clark-LeClair, ECU will play 7 of its next 8 on the road, and of those, following tomorrow night's game, of those remaining 22 games, 14 will be away from the friendly confines of Clark-LeClair. So,
yeah,
by not handling our business nearly as well as we could have at home,
yep.
To your point, if we have any shot at getting back in the at large picture, then we're going to have to do it away from home.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that, to be honest, until I heard Kyle last night on their show. Kyle from LaGrange mentioned that he was shocked at how many road games we still had left. But I went and looked, and he's right. And just as you mentioned right here, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to have to do it outside, for the most part, of our favorite park in the country, and that's just the way it is. And they're going to have to pick it up. And I've been a part of a team that struggled, and we were definitely not an at-large team my senior year, and we knew that we had to go on a run to do that, or we'd have to win the tournament. And that year, we knew we weren't going to be in that large bid, and that's possibly the case towards the end of the year. And everyone knows that. I mean, it's not a secret at this point. But if they can still go on a run, they still have a shot at being at large. Just as early as last week, they were considered at large with South Florida and UTSA. So not far away from it. Just need to handle business. And unfortunately, it's not going to be at home as much as we'd like, and that's just the part of the game. So it is what it is. They're going to have to figure it out.
No doubt. And Final couple things here before we get out of here. We appreciate everyone tuning in and bearing with us through our technical difficulties tonight on YouTube and Facebook. Coming to you live on a Monday night as it's the night of the national championship game. Definitely not the ideal time to do this show, but has had some life stuff occur, that we needed to, or that I needed to take care of on Sunday. So unfortunately, unable to stick to the Sunday night show. That will hopefully be the case following the Charlotte series, and we can get a larger viewing audience. As we have an excellent finish in San Antonio with the Cougs leading the Gators by one with just over a minute remaining. But taking a look at the Pro Pirates, you have Alec Burleson. Burley's off to a tremendous start. A very solid start. 286, has 8 or 9 hits through the first, couple weeks or so of the season. And Gavin Williams, his first start was very competitive. Second, not as much. Sean Armstrong has done some nice things. Jeff Hoffman has already garnered at least 3 or 4 saves of last check. Connor Norby is, of course, on the DL, and we'll be back here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Have you heard any update on Norby, John?
I have not heard anything on Norby. I think the big thing is everybody's wondering when Carson Whisenhunt is going to make it to the bigs. I haven't really looked to see what that situation involves. But yeah, we have a lot going on in AAA, and looking forward to seeing those guys that came out of that Vanderbilt ECU Super Regional make it to the bigs. I don't know if anybody remembers that regional, but there's a lot of talent that came out of that regional that's going to be in the major leagues for years to come.
There definitely is, and give Danny Bill a shout here. Danny is trying to earn himself a professional opportunity. Be it with an independent league where he can do what Carter Spivey did and earn him a shot in affiliated ball. And that's just awesome. Carter got picked up like Lane Hoover by the Florence Yaws, and was teammates of also Ben Terwilliger there. And now look at him. He's there in AAA in the Guardians organization with the Columbus Clippers. And you also have Zach Agnos with the Albuquerque Isotopes. You have Carter Cunningham doing good things, up in Vancouver with the Canadians, high A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. Very interested to see, Trey Savage. He's in.
Yeah,
He's actually in low A ball.
Yeah, and Trey hasn't pitched yet, and might get moved up without even pitching yet. But yeah, Zach probably going to make the majors before Whisenhunt based on the needs of the major league club, and that's my opinion. That's not something set in stone, but Zach's on the cusp of being in the major leagues as well, and that's pretty cool. And to see how much Toronto really likes Trey Savage is a good thing, and being able to move up without pitching shows that they understand his stuff is completely nasty. But he did pitch in spring training, but he hasn't pitched in the minors yet. So we'll see what happens here.
Right. Final thing, be sure, if you love East Carolina baseball, support the program via the 23 Club and Mike Harrington and company. Some other former players do an excellent job with that branch of Team Boneyard. And, even though it is through Team Boneyard, if you give to the 23 Club directly by going to 23club.org, all of those funds will support the ECU baseball program. We appreciate everyone tuning into the show. We appreciate Mark Minikazi and PGXGlove.com for excuse me, for being the sponsor of this weekend Pirate Baseball. And be sure to follow us on social media at Jungle Tales Pod on X, Instagram, also Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, follow, comment, and subscribe. But John, do you have any other final thoughts before we wrap up this edition of the program?
I know it's going to be a tough week this week, but this is going to show the mettle that the East Carolina team has and what coach can deliver as far as being a leader. So this is a big week coming up, and I look forward to watching them rebound. So,
and on the graphic, for this episode, I put the Pirates, in terms of this season, not to overstate things here, but just that, in my opinion, that we are at a bit of a crossroads, from the standpoint of, we're 20-13 now, 6-3 in the league. You really need, in 4 challenging games against NC State and 3 at Charlotte to produce a quality week if you're going to get yourself, back to being in position to potentially garner an at-large bid.
Yeah, this is an important week. This is probably the biggest week to kind of figure out which way the season is going to go. But yeah, this is a huge week, and we might be overstating it, but I don't think we are. I think it's very important, and I know that he has made the team aware of that, and I look for them to rebound and go out and produce a good weekend, and hopefully on Tuesday against NC State we can go out there and get a big win. That would help tremendously. So, yeah, this is a big week.
And I agree with you. I really don't think we're overstating it. I mean, don't want to make too much, of the meeting that was occurring today amongst the team and coaching staff, but at the same time, if this wasn't at least a bit of a crossroads, then that would not be occurring.
Yeah, exactly, and he knows it, and he's going to have this team as ready as they can go, and hopefully they respond to his coaching. And he did say that this is when he's at his best and when East Carolina prevails. So hoping to see that this week, and looking forward to talk about this week in baseball next weekend with some solid wins during the week.
Yep. So appreciate everyone tuning in, and for former East Carolina pitcher John White, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to This Week in Pirate Baseball on Jungle Tales. And if you're in the western part of the state, the upstate of South Carolina, get out to the downtown ballpark of the Charlotte Knights, Truist Park, and then obviously on Saturday and Sunday, tickets will be hard to come by at Hayes Stadium there on the Charlotte campus. So I would encourage you, especially for Saturday and Sunday, to go ahead and purchase those tickets in advance. Look forward to seeing a lot of Pirates out in the Queen City this weekend. But that will do it for this edition of the show. We appreciate everyone tuning in. And as always, go Pirates.